Welcome to Good Evening KU Sports. I'm Jaden Hill, your host for all things in the sports world. Today we have a special show. Since the March Madness bracket dropped less than 24 hours ago, we want to be the first to give you an inside look at all things tournament related. From a Big 12 outlook to the history of the tournament to a KU's women tournament preview, all you basketball fans will be more than satisfied. To start us off close to home, Emma Noble brings us a look at the Big 12, including the sad state of the Jayhawks right now. Emma, what do you got?
Thanks, Jaden. Good afternoon, Jayhawks. I hope everyone got a great night's rest after good old Selection Sunday last night. Today, I'm here to break it all down for you and give you a pre-tournament overview of what to expect for KU men's basketball throughout the madness of March. Now, we're all aware of the Hawks' short-lived run in the Big 12 tournament this past weekend. In a hard-fought game, KU just could not catch a lead against Cincinnati. With 12 turnovers and shooting just only 15% from the three-point line, the Jayhawks lost the game with the final score being 72-52 Bearcats. After just the second round, Kansas left the tournament as an early exit. Now, both Kevin McCullough and Hunter Dickinson were out for that game, which was a huge part in the Jayhawks not performing as well as we've seen in the past. Both athletes are expected to return to the court for Kansas's first opponent of the official March Madness tournament, Samford. In the Midwest region, KU is seeded number 4 while Samford falls at number 13. Now the Jayhawks are going to have their work cut out for them this first game, as the Bulldogs' regular season stats are right up there with KU's. Samford is averaging 10.5 offensive rebounds per game, while KU stands at 8.2. However, the Jayhawks have fewer turnovers per game, averaging 11.7 compared to the Bulldogs' count of 13.2. Now, allow me to introduce you to Samford's 6'9" junior forward, Achor Achor. Achor is one of Samford's leading scorers, averaging 15.8 points per game and 6.1 rebounds. In the Southern Conference Championship against East Tennessee State, Achor totaled 25 points and 9 rebounds, leading the Bulldogs to win the final score, being 76-69. But of course, we cannot count out the Jayhawks from this game at all. While they've had quite the inconsistent season, there's no doubt that when they're on, they are on. When McCullough's at his healthiest, he's averaging 18.3 points, 6 rebounds, and 4.1 assists per game. Hopefully, Dickinson has also healed up nicely after his shoulder injury, because his average of 10.8 rebounds per game is sure to help advance the Hawks past this first round. Now, if Kansas beats Samford, their next opponent would be the winner of number 5 Gonzaga versus number 12 McNeese. Both good teams that would definitely put up a good fight. Tip-off for Kansas versus Samford is Thursday, March 21st at 8:55 p.m. That's all for me. Now let's pass it over to Colton for a rundown over the Big 12 tournament.
Thanks, Emma. Hopefully Kansas can get healthy and make a push to get to Glendale and be one of the last 4 teams standing. But there's a lot of good teams who made this year's bracket, including 8 Big 12 teams who got at-large bids. Representing the Big 12 in this year's bracket is 1 seed Houston, 2 seed Iowa State, 3 seed Baylor, 5 seed Kansas, 6 seeds Texas Tech and BYU, 7 seed Texas, and 9 seed TCU. Arguments could have been made for some teams to get higher seeds, but no one can change the seeding, so we'll go ahead and look into the matchups and how other Big 12 teams will do this March. The short answer for who's going to do good in March is Houston. Although they are coming off their worst loss of the season in the Big 12 title game, they are still a top team in the country, and Houston will come out on the court on Thursday ready to play. I don't see any way they don't make it to the Elite Eight. Houston will run through Longwood, then face either Nebraska or Texas A&M. I think A&M will beat Nebraska, but I think Houston will beat the Aggies pretty easily in the round of 32. I think it'll be a 10 to 15 point win for Houston. If Houston takes care of business, they will most likely play Duke in the Sweet 16. Houston is miles better than Duke, and I think they will win that game pretty easily. I really do think Houston has a cakewalk to the Elite Eight, but their run is going to end there with Kentucky knocking them out. Iowa State secured the 2nd seed in the East, but I don't think they are a team many need to worry about. I know Iowa State finished the regular season in 2nd place and won the Big 12 tournament, but I'm going to fade them in March. Keyshawn Gilbert is a great player for Iowa State, but he's been pretty inconsistent since January. I don't trust him as a number 1 option for a team that's going to make it far in March. I think Iowa State will get bounced in the 2nd round. The Cyclones will either play Drake or Washington State, both which are bad matchups. Both teams out-rebound and outshoot Iowa State. Iowa State's tournament run will end in the first weekend. I have 3-seeded Baylor Bears getting eliminated in the Sweet 16. Don't get me wrong, Baylor has some good wins, but I just don't think they have enough star power to go far this year. They are an older team, so I think experience will help a little bit, but I think they will lose to Arizona in the Sweet 16. I think Arizona's offense will be too much for Baylor, and the Bears will have trouble stopping Caleb Love. Now, 2 of the 4 6 seeds this year are represented by BYU and Texas Tech. Both teams can shoot really good and know how to move the ball. If BYU is on, I think they can scare teams a bit, but we've seen when they can't make shots, their offense is stagnant. I think BYU will easily win the first round, but then will fall to Illinois in the second. That's a tough matchup for BYU, and I don't think BYU has a guard who can stop Terrence Shannon on Illinois. I also think Tech will be booted in the second round against Kentucky. Tech can guard really good, but it'll be a matter of if they can score more points than Kentucky. Kentucky will most likely score 100 points, but Kentucky's lacking defense. It'll be interesting to see if the Red Raiders can outscore the Wildcats. It is possible, but I don't think they will do it. I think Texas Tech versus Kentucky will be the best second-round matchup, and it will be one you don't want to miss. The last 2 teams from the Big 12 are 7-seed Texas and 9-seed TCU. I don't know how either of these teams made the dance, and America will wonder why after the first-round matchups as well. Teams like St. John, Pitt, Indiana State definitely should have made it over Texas and TCU. Both of their tournament runs will end before they even get started. Both teams will lose in the first round, Texas to Virginia or Colorado State, and I think TCU will lose to a slow-paced Utah State team. It's a shame America will have to watch these 2 teams in the first round, but they don't have to watch for long. Games for Big 12 teams start Thursday, so while we wait, we're going to send it to break.
Where you go to college makes a statement about you. This place will become a part of you, your identity for life. The University of Kansas, a great place to be you.
Since its beginning in 1939, the NCAA tournament has changed, grown, and gotten even better. Furthermore, the Jayhawks have played a considerable role in it with 6 overall national championships, 6 runner-up spots, and the most conference titles in the nation. To give us more detail on the highs and lows of Jayhawk basketball throughout the tournament's history, Tyler Brewer will take it from here.
Thank you, Jaden. There have been some unforgettable moments throughout the history of the NCAA tournament. Like back in 1988 when Danny Manning and the Jayhawks got off to a hot start and just kept pulling off miracle after miracle until KU were crowned the champions. Or even in 2018 when Malik Newman went crazy against the Blue Devils in overtime, scoring all 13 points for the Jayhawks and leading them to the Final Four. The common theme with these amazing moments is that they all revolve around KU. And I think it's clear that there are only 3 guarantees in life: death, taxes, and KU is going to show up in the month of March. And they have, because the Jayhawks are one of the most successful teams in college basketball when it comes to tournament season. So today, I want to look at the success of KU and just see how good they've really been. KU has made the tournament 52 times in the school's history and have set an NCAA record with 28 consecutive tourney appearances. But the success doesn't stop there, because the team has been to the Elite Eight 23 times. They have 16 Final Four appearances and have been crowned champions 4 times in 1952, 1988, 2008, and 2022. And ask any Jayhawk fan if they're able to tell you any of the iconic moments within those tournaments. I think that one moment Jayhawk fans immediately think of was in 2008 when Mario Chalmers hit the shot. The Jayhawks were facing off with the Memphis Tigers in the national championship game. The game could have been ice had Memphis made their free throws, but as we know, that didn't happen. And after Derrick Rose made the game 63-60, the Jayhawks raced the ball down the court, and Sharon Collins gave the ball to Chalmers, who took one dribble and threw up a prayer that was answered. And I mean, just listen to this.
To extend the game. Collins driving, almost lost the handle. Chalmers for the tie. Got it with 2 seconds. Unbelievable.
The Jayhawks would go on to win that game in overtime by a final score of 75-68. And this year may not look the best for the Jayhawks, but I know I will be watching every game they're playing in, hoping for more unforgettable moments and tournament success, just like in years past. That's going to be all for me today. I'm Tyler Brewer. Now let's send it to Brady to discuss some Cinderellas at the ball.
It's finally that time of year again. March, the greatest sporting event in the United States, and what is a good tourney without a couple of real-time upsets? It seems that every year there's a crazy story when it comes to the tournament. Whether it's St. Peter's or Florida Atlantic, Cinderella stories are what make March mad. The first story that I have going into the tournament is Long Beach State. This is probably the most interesting story that I've seen entering the tournament, and it is a miracle, and it has miracle written all over it. Long Beach State's coach Dan Monson was fired on Monday, but was allowed to coach in postseason play. With that, he took his squad and won the Big West like a beast. He is coaching for pride and nothing more. I smell an upset from these boys, and Caleb Love and Arizona are in some big trouble come the first round. These Long Beach State boys are coming to play. The second story that I have that has upset written all over it is Wagner. Wagner may be the hottest team in college hoops right now. I don't care about UConn, Illinois, or Iowa State. One word, Wagner. Entering postseason play with a record of 15-15, which is awful, the Wagner boys were able to upset the entire bracket and win their conference tournament. These guys are hungry and ready to play and ready to destroy Howard tomorrow night and enter the big dance. The third team I have to make a miracle run is James Madison. With only 3 losses and a highlight win against Michigan State earlier in the year, James Madison is going to feast on the Big Ten once again and take down the Badgers on Friday. Get ready for 3-pointers from James Madison because these boys can shoot. Also, not to mention it, it would kind of be unpatriotic from the Badgers to beat a team that was named after our president. I don't think they should let them have this one. One team that I had going far was Larry Bird's old school, Indiana State, but unfortunately they didn't make it. I don't know how they did not. They're led by a stud center, Robbie Avila. This guy hoops in rec specs and is a straight bucket getter. I mean, look at him. How could you not let that guy in the tournament? His nickname is also Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, which is pretty awesome. Honestly, I probably would have had him win it all, but that's just my opinion. That's it for me. Now I'm handing it over to Harrison for even more upset talk.
Thank you, Brady. As March Madness, the greatest sporting event in the history of the world, returns this week, college basketball fans are also locked in and filling out their 2024 brackets ahead of the big dance. One of the most difficult aspects of filling out brackets is predicting which higher seeds are going to be upset. Everyone knows it's going to happen, but it's impossible to predict which upsets. You usually just pick upsets just for the sake of picking upsets. I mean, for example, who would have predicted Fairleigh Dickinson would have upset Purdue last year? The correct answer, about 1 and 2% were the ones who correctly predicted them to repeat. Still, 66 other matchups that need to be correctly predicted for a perfect bracket. However, there are several potential upsets that I am keeping my eye on this first weekend of the tournament. One of the first key matchups is Wisconsin versus James Madison. Wisconsin had a late surge as the Badgers had a Big Ten championship appearance, including an upset over the number 1 seeded Purdue Boilermakers to get to the big game. Wisconsin has seen increased production from guards Chucky Hepburn and Max Klesmit, who have stepped up their games lately. However, James Madison will take their 31-3 record into the tournament as a 12th seed in the matchup. The Dukes have won their last 13 games, led by star Terrence Edwards Jr., averaging 17 points per game. The Badgers are favored by 5.5 points, but they are in a tough matchup this weekend. Another under-the-radar matchup to keep an eye on is the number 5 versus number 12 game in the West region. St. Mary's will be a matchup against my former basketball coach's alma mater in the GCU Lopes. The Lopes wrapped up highest winning season in program history with an 89-74 victory in the WAC championship, led by former Jayhawk Tyron Grant Foster, who averaged 20 points and 6 rebounds a game on the season. While St. Mary's has been on fire lately, winning 18 of their last 19 games, they have shown vulnerability against athletic teams, which GCU has most definitely proven to be. Their matchup is also a very gritty-inspired team with very little to lose. Just like Wisconsin, James Madison, this game has a 5.5-point line in favor of the 5th seed St. Mary's. One more potential upset to watch out for is the 6 versus 11 matchup in the Midwest region between Oregon and South Carolina. The main concern for South Carolina will be their inconsistencies throughout the season. SC has had some great wins, including a 17-point win over Kentucky and wins over Tennessee and Florida. However, they have also sustained brutal losses such as a 40-point beatdown at the hands of Auburn, a bad loss to mediocre LSU team, and a 31-point beatdown from, you guessed it, Auburn in their last game in the SEC tournament. Meanwhile, Oregon is playing their best basketball as of late as the Ducks took home the Pac-12 championship on Saturday after defeating Colorado 75-68 and taking down number 2 seeded Arizona in the preceding game. A key difference maker could be the Ducks' dominant big man, N'Faly Dante, who averaged 20 points and 9 rebounds per game in the Pac-12 tournament. Dante could prove to be a matchup nightmare for a relatively undersized South Carolina team. The line on this game is only 1.5 points in favor of South Carolina, who is in for a tough challenge in Pittsburgh on Thursday. A few other matchups with very tight spreads include Dayton, Nevada, in which the 10th seeded Wolfpack is only favored by 1.5. The MSU battle between the number 9 Michigan State Spartans and number 8 Mississippi State Bulldogs, which has the same line of 1.5, and a highly anticipated duel between the Northwestern Wildcats and one of last year's Final Four participants in FAU. These upsets are impossible to predict, but you know that they are going to happen. At least a handful of the high-ranked teams are going to go down. It's just a matter of figuring out which ones they're going to be. Thank you very much. We'll see you after the break.
Missed the bus again?
Yeah.
You should download My Bus Lawrence. You can see when buses are arriving here, and you can also see where the buses are in Lawrence.
Wow. Okay.
Download the My Bus Lawrence app today.
Yeah, I always just clap in this part.
This is where everyone's talking amongst themselves. Do you know how to do it? Do you know how to do it?
Are we supposed to smile?
When do we start? Somebody over here already started.
Can we talk about the piccolo part? It's the most complicated one.
It is. If you listen, you're doing it when the band's not playing.
You have to tell me when it starts. I still don't know.
Here we go. Just clapping now.
No humps. Nailed it.
I practiced this morning.
Tomorrow is just 2 people.
It has a right and a wrong way of doing it. No. Wrong.
I like my way better.
I don't know how to
1,
do
2,
the
3,
end.
4.
It's just I don't know the head.
That's great.
It's hard by yourself.
So far, we've covered men, but what about the women's side of the tournament? The Jayhawks' own women's teams had an impressive year and landed an 8th seed in this year's tournament. To take a deeper dive into the world of women's basketball, Caroline Spaeth is here to give us an outlook.
Thanks, Jaden. KU women's basketball is celebrating their 8th seed in the 2024 NCAA tournament, and I'm here to tell you all about it. We'll also take a quick look at their first matchup on Saturday against Michigan, so be sure to stick around for that. The Jayhawks are heading into the tourney with an overall record of 19-12, a conference record of 11-7, and a hot streak with wins in 9 of their last 11 games. The team won last year's WNIT, so their appearance in the NCAA tourney is a great step for the future of the Jayhawks. Their latest games show promise for March. The Jayhawks faced off against BYU in the second round of the Big 12 tournament, defeating them 77-53. After a close lead of 35-33 at halftime, KU was able to pull away in the second half, shooting at 61.5% and keeping the Cougars at 28%. Zakiya Franklin led the Jayhawks with 20 points in the game, while Yvette Mayberry made all of her three-point attempts and added 14 points to the team's total. Samaya Nichols scored 13 points, Tiana Jackson posted 12 points, and Holly Kerskeeter added 11. In their most recent game against Texas in the Big 12 quarterfinals, the team fell to the Longhorns 76-60. Despite the loss against a fantastic team, 3 Jayhawks scored over 10 points. Nichols put up 20 points, Kerskeeter followed close behind with 17, and Franklin again had a good showing with 13 points. With multiple Jayhawks consistently scoring over 10 points each game, this is a great sign for the team in March Madness. Let's quickly take a look at the key players for KU going forward. The Jayhawks are primarily led by 4 main players: Nichols, Jackson, Kerskeeter, and Franklin. Nichols led the team in points this season with a total of 471 and an average of 15.2 per game. She also leads the team in steals with 43 this season. The freshman guard earned a spot on the All-Big 12 first team, along with a spot on the Big 12 All-Freshman team. Super senior center Jackson joins her teammate on the All-Big 12 first team and put up 379 points this season with an average of 12.6 points per game. She leads the team by far with 94 blocks this season in addition to her total rebound count of 295, definitely proving her spot on the Big 12 All-Defensive team for the 3rd straight season. Super senior guard Kerskeeter earned an honorable mention for All Big 12 with 352 points this season, an average of 11.7 points per game, joining her teammate with an honorable mention for All Big 12. Super senior guard Franklin secured 363 points. She also had an average of about 11.7 points per game and played the most minutes for the Jayhawks this season. The first game against 9th-seeded Michigan will be a tough test for the Jayhawks. The Wolverines are entering the tournament with a 20-13 record overall and a 9-9 record in Big Ten play. Ophelia will be a challenge for the Jayhawk defense with a season average of 16.8 points per game. Jordan Hobbs is another one to watch as she has collected 134 total rebounds for Michigan. The winner of Kansas and Michigan will take on the winner of 1st-seeded USC and 16th-seeded Texas A&M game in the second round of the NCAA tournament. Be sure to tune in to KU's first March Madness game on Saturday at 1 p.m. to see them crush the Wolverines. Good luck, Jayhawks. I'll send you to Jacob to discuss whether or not we will see back-to-back champions on the men's side.
Now, let's talk about how the defending national champions did this season. UConn started off as the 6th-ranked team in the preseason poll, so they had high expectations to live up after winning March Madness last year. And I think it's safe to say, so far, they lived up to expectations, posting an incredible record of 31-3, with only 3 losses being to Kansas, Seton Hall, and Creighton. UConn had a lot of players performing at a very high level this season. Their top 2 scorers were Tristan Newton with 15.2 points and Cam Spencer with 14.5. The top 2 rebounders were Donovan Clingan with 7.2 and Tristan Newton with 7. As with no surprise, UConn earned the 2nd-ranked spot in the AP poll headed into the Big East tournament, where they swept through their competition, beating Marquette 73-57 in the championship game, giving UConn their first conference title since 2011. Now, with the March Madness bracket coming out yesterday evening, we found out that UConn is the 1 seed in the East, which I'm sure is a surprise to absolutely no one. First, the game will be against Stetson this Friday. Now, UConn has a tall task this March, as they are trying to be the first team since Florida in 06 and 07 to go back-to-back. In fact, only 7 teams have gone back-to-back in the history of the tournament, including teams like Kentucky in 1948 and 49, Duke in 1991 and 92, and UCLA in 1964 and 65. And then they also won 7 straight from 1967 to 1973. Thank you, and let's head it back to Jaden to close it out.
Thanks, Jacob. We'll see how all that plays out this year. This is all for this edition of Good Evening KU Sports. Follow us on Instagram at GEKU_sports and tune in every Monday at 3. Rock chalk, and we'll see you next week.